Hey everyone, Operation Neon Dawn has released today, which means there's a whole slew of changes for us to cover. In today's video, I'm going to go through everything that you need to know for this new season. We're going to start by going over the new defending operator, Aruni. Before we do that, I want to let you guys know that today's video is sponsored by Ubisoft to promote the Neon Dawn Battle Pass. This is the biggest Battle Pass yet with 100 levels to unlock. And in those 100 levels is the best item ever, Alpha Packs. Alpha Packs everywhere. This time there's 28 of them, which means my seasonal pack openings are going to keep getting bigger and bigger. There's quite a few items for you to get on the free track, as well as a whole slew of items to get on the premium track. Like this, I believe, first of its kind 3D skin for Mozzie's gun. Not bad, not bad. And this battle pass will run from December 1st until February 22nd, so you have plenty of time to complete it, but don't wait too long. Thanks to Ubisoft for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to the changes. So to start off, we're going to talk about everything you need to know about Aruni, and there is a lot to know. First off, she's a 2-speed, 2-armor defender with a completely indestructible gadget, which is something that no other operator has ever had. Up until now, every single operator has had to put something down as a gadget. It can't be destroyed, whether it's shooting, melee, explosions, it just can be destroyed somehow. But that all ends with Aruni's gadget. She has 3 of these gadgets and she can place them at any door, window, wall, or hatch. And once they're deployed and given enough space, the lasers will deploy. These lasers will cover the entryway and hurt any attacker that enters through them for 30 damage. After someone has run through it, the gate will deactivate. Alternatively, you can also use any projectile to deactivate them. Whether it's grenades, drones, gadgets, etc., all of them will work. It's also really important to note that once something is used to deactivate the gate, it still takes a little bit of time to fully deactivate. You'll see it kind of fizz out. It's still active while it's fizzing out. So don't just throw in a drone or use a gadget and then sprint right through because it can kill you. Once you actually have fully deactivated, the Surya gate will be offline for 30 seconds. And once those 30 seconds are up, defenders or even attackers, if for some reason they want to do it, can reactivate the gate by shooting it. You have to be very, very specific on where you're shooting it, because if you hit even just the slightest part of the edge, it will not reactivate. Now, Aruni's gates have a few intricacies that others don't really have. While gadgets like Jaeger's ADSs only affect attackers, Aruni's gates will stop both defender and attacker projectiles. However, it won't hurt defenders. Once a defender gets close enough, the gate will turn off. So if you want to throw something through the gate, you have to make sure to get really cozy with it first. And of course, once the defender leaves that area, the gate will reactivate. Now, a few smaller things that are important to note about this gadget is that unlike other gadgets, when the gate is deactivated, Aruni can't pick it up and place it again to reactivate it. She has to wait until it's primed again. So for the full 30 seconds, it's just completely useless. When the gadget's placed on a doorway, there's a little gap at the bottom so drones and other gadgets can still pass underneath. So if you're standing next to the gate, don't just assume you're completely free from grenades. They can throw it underneath and still kill you with it. And lastly, Aruni's gadget will also destroy hard breach gadgets that are placed on them. So when we did our early access, people were trying to play with the idea of putting it outside to destroy hard breaching devices. Now this is a pretty cool gimmick and overall kind of fun, but it is a huge waste of utility and should not ever be done in an actual match. It's really only useful for memes. Because when you do this, the gadget is then a one-time use and can never be used again because you're not going to reactivate it outside. Meanwhile, if you were to use something like Bandit, you can just keep picking up and putting it back down to destroy more and more gadgets. Can't do that with Aruni's gate. But that about covers it for her gadget. Now let's look at the rest of Aruni. For her loadout, she has 2 primaries. The first one is the P10 Roni, but unlike Mozzie, it does not have the 1.5 times scope. And her second weapon is Dokubi's DMR, the MK14, this time with a 1.5 times scope, but without the 3 times scope that Dokubi has. For her secondary gadgets, she has the bulletproof camera and barbed wire, both of which work pretty well with her gadget since it's all about blocking doorways or knowing when they come through. And there is one last thing that we need to talk about, which is her unique trait. Since she's half robot, totally not stolen from Teen Titans, she packs a bigger punch than other operators. Her fist can be used to make shotgun-sized holes in walls. And it can also be used to break hatches, barricades, and castle panels all in one punch. So you no longer need to bring shotgun on specific operators to make rotates if you're bringing a Aruni. A lot of people are saying that this one punch mechanic seems a little overpowered, but honestly, I really don't think it is. I think it's just a nice little gimmick to have. And if we're talking about overall how I feel about Aruni, for the most part, I think she isn't overpowered. I don't think she's underpowered. I just kind of think she's somewhere in the middle. She can do a lot of small things decently, but nothing amazingly well. She doesn't block doorways like Castle. She doesn't stop projectiles like Jaeger. And she can punch holes like a shotgun, but she doesn't have as much range. So she just does a lot of small things decently, but nothing particularly well. But that about covers it for Aruni, and since we're on the topic of operators, it's time to go over all of the nerfs and buffs that are going to be coming this season. The biggest nerf coming this season is by far Echo. His drones are going to be nerfed to be always visible. They will no longer have any cloaking whatsoever, and that is the only change happening to him, but it is a big one. Obviously, one of the biggest reasons why Echo is such a top pick and also such a top ban is because the invisible drones can hide easily on site and then stop a plant at the last second. Now with them being always visible, you can't really do that because they're going to be very obvious. This change should drastically reduce his ban rate because honestly with this, he's kind of borderline useless. And for the most part, I really don't suggest changes to operators because I believe the balancing team knows more than I do. But this is one case where I'm going to make an exception, and I think that a better change for Echo would be that his drones only become visible when someone is on the drone itself. This way you could still hide a drone on site in case you need to stop a plant, but you only really have one chance to use it because then the enemy team is going to easily see it sitting on the roof. And even then you might not get a chance to use it because as soon as you hop on it, it's going to become visible. So it'll give the attackers more of a chance to stop it. And this would also apply to dead teammates. If they go on the drone, it'll become visible, so it's going to require a little bit more teamwork. Overall, I think that'll be a much better change, but it's still a bit too early to tell. We only really got to try Echo on the test server, which really doesn't resemble a whole lot, so we'll see how he plays out in ranked now. Now moving on, the next big change is Jaeger. His ADS has got a small rework. They now work on a 10-second cooldown instead of an X amount of charges system. Before, it was 2 charges per ADS for 6 total. Now he still has 3 ADSs, and they can only stop 1 projectile at a time. And once it stops a projectile, it goes on a 10-second cooldown, and then it reprimes again. So now they have unlimited charges, but only work every 10 seconds. So it's kind of both a buff and a nerf. I think overall this is a pretty good change. Now next big change is Hibana, who's receiving a pretty hefty change for her gadget. Currently Hibana can shoot 3 rows of X Kairos consisting of 6 pellets each for a total of 18. Now she can change how many pellets she shoots, and she has a pool of just 18 pellets overall. She's able to cycle between 6, 4, or 2 X Kairos at a time. So now she has more options on how to use her pellets and doesn't have to waste so many on something like a hatch. Because right now hatches only take 4 pellets to destroy, so having 6 on them kinda seems useless. So this change will make her better for hatches overall because she can now get 4 total, since they only take 4 pellets each. And it'll also help her in situations like impact tricking, where people will just throw impacts as soon as Hibana pellets go down. Now she could bait it out by only shooting 2 pellets or something. This is overall a pretty good change, but might push Hibana to be probably the most picked hard breacher, even though she was already pretty prevalent. So you're probably going to see a lot more of Hibana. But that covers it for the operator changes. I would have included Tachanka in this, but we covered him in the rework video, and he also came out before this patch, so it didn't really make much sense to throw him in here. Moving on from operators, there's a change that kind of received a lot of flack from the community as well as other content creators, and that's that they changed the Runout Timer. Up until this season, it has been 2 seconds before a defender gets detected for running out. Before that, it was 5 seconds, if you can believe it. And now that timer is getting changed again. It's going down to 1 second. This is, in my opinion, a good change, as the 2-second timer could be a little bit finicky, especially if you had high ping. Now it basically guarantees that no matter what, someone will get detected if they run outside. This change overall is kind of an indirect nerf to Valkyrie though, because if you even jump out of a window and jump back in, immediately you'll still get detected. So throwing Valk cameras outside is going to be even trickier without making it super obvious that you did it. So a lot of Valk mains are going to either have to adapt to throwing cameras from inside, or just taking the hit and getting spotted. Next change we have is the Defuser drop zone has been modified. This will only really affect the higher levels of play because they know about very particular plant spots. But what this means overall is that instead of defaulting to dropping the Defuser when you're at the edge of a bomb site, it'll just do nothing instead. Because a lot of people in gold or even plat and above know that when you're trying to plant at the very edge of a bomb site, sometimes it'll make you drop the Defuser and then you have to scramble to pick it up. Now that'll no longer be the case. One place in particular that has always had this problem is the bank basement default plant. So it's nice that we won't have to worry about that anymore. And coupled with this is also that the plant animation is a lot closer to the body now, so debris and furniture won't really get in your way. I'm sure we've all had that problem where we tried to plant somewhere and it just won't let us because there's a little table in front of us that's somehow blocking us. Now the animation is basically right on you, so you won't have to deal with this at all. As an example, I went to the Villa Vault default plant and tried planting there, and you can see that I can plant way closer than before. Now, second last category we're going to talk about is loadout changes. And while going through these changes, I'm going to give some of what I believe is the reasoning behind why they changed. But first up, we're going to talk about a big one, Ash. She lost her flashbangs and got them replaced with a claymore, which I know a lot of you looking at this are like, what the hell are they doing? Why did this happen? She doesn't need a claymore. It's because she is now getting a third breaching round in her grenade launcher, which means that if she kept her flashbang, she would then have 6 total projectiles to waste, meaning she could basically burn all Wamai's and ADSs with just her gadgets herself. So they had to do a little bit of a trade-off. And the reason why they're giving her a third breaching round is to kind of deal with the 20-second meta that's in play right now, where there's a lot of bulletproof gadgets that need to be dealt with explosives, and you have to bring a lot of people in order to deal with them. Now Ash can hopefully deal with them a little bit more. Although I don't know if increasing Ash's pick rate alone is probably going to affect it too much, but it'll help. But speaking of having 6 projectiles, Zero lost his frag grenades and got a hard breach gadget instead. This doesn't really surprise me at all, as he already had 6 projectiles, which, like we said, is a lot, because he had 4 cameras and 2 frags. And he also really didn't need the frags because it basically made him a one-man army. He had intel, he had utility waste, and he also had frags to kill people with. It just seemed like too much. So I think this change was aimed to make him more of a utility operator instead of a fragging operator. Instead of placing cameras and getting kills with his frags, now he can like place cameras, destroy bandits, and make a hard breach on the backside to help his team push from multiple angles, something like that. So still kind of a one-man army, but more helping the team rather than just going for frags. Now moving on to Twitch, she is gaining flash grenades, which are replacing her breaching charges. I think this change sort of meshes with her a little bit more than having the breaching charges did, because she could use her drone to break ADSs or discs, and then she can flash into sight now. Or in general, she could just be more aggressive since she has the F2 and just flash sight and push in, since she's kind of more of a fragging operator anyways. But continuing the theme of projectiles, Wamai is receiving a decent amount of changes. He's going to be losing 1 magnet, going down to 4 total instead of 5, and he's also going to be losing his deployable shield, which was a huge part of his whole combo and kit. So now if you want to do the Wamai shield hold, you're going to need someone else to bring the shield. And by the way, he's getting impacts to replace the shield. Now there is one change that's mentioned in the patch notes that I never got to test, so I don't know 100% what they're talking about, but I'm going to make an assumption. They say that the magnets no longer explode when auto-destroying. I assume what this means is that they're clearing up the sound and they're removing the explosion animation in order to make it easier to hear things as Wamai. Because as it stands right now, whenever the magnet would catch a projectile, the projectile would explode first and then the magnet would explode. So I assume they're just getting rid of the second explosion so it's not as noisy. Could be wrong. If I am wrong, someone let me know in the comments. Now even more changes with projectiles. Dokkaebi is losing her stun grenades and getting frag grenades. This one actually kind of caught me by surprise, but also somewhat makes sense because you never would really take stuns on Dokkaebi. You'd always take the smokes because they're more useful. But now frags are going to reign supreme. No one's going to take anything except for frags on Dokkaebi, unless I guess you want to go for more of an objective push, then smokes make more sense. But I feel like even then people are just still going to be selfish and take frags. But I think this is now like the 10th time that Dokkaebi has had her secondary gadget change, so can't wait till next season when they change it again. One change that I actually almost forgot to mention, but just remembered while I was editing through this video, is that Echo is getting a deployable shield back. He's losing his barbed wire and the deployable shield is taking its place. The developers actually came out and said that this is because of his nerf. They're giving him back the shield so that he doesn't have to rely on other people so much. And now the last operator loadout change, which is only somewhat dealing with projectiles, is Valkyrie is losing her deployable shield and gaining impacts instead. I think this is only really going to affect the highest level of plays for her losing her shield, because I don't think I've ever seen anyone actually run deployable shield instead of C4 unless it's for a combo play or for Pro League. Because everyone I know would always bring C4 because you want to use a camera above, C4 them from below, stop the plant, whatever you want to do with it. It just seems a lot more useful than the deployable shield. But the switch to impacts, it was actually going to make it where you have to choose. Instead of being a C4 default, now you're going to actually have to decide whether you want to run out with the new impacts, because if you throw a camera outside and then impact a wall to run out and kill them as Valkyrie, that's a pretty good combo. Or if you want to hold on to the C4 and use it to kill from below. Both are actually pretty viable. But that's it for all the loadout changes in Neon Dawn. Now for the last section, I saved this for last because I know a lot of people don't really care too much about it, but we're going to talk about the Skyscraper Rework. Now before you click off, I just want to tell you that compared to other reworks, I actually think this overall rework is pretty good. Not a whole lot has changed, but it made the map feel a lot more competitive and actually enjoyable to play on, as opposed to the old Skyscraper, which was infamously unpopular because it was just runouts everywhere and spawn peaks. So I highly recommend sticking through to see some of these changes and to see if this is actually a map that you would enjoy. I only say this because Chalet got a pretty big rework last season, and still a lot of people ban it or don't want to play it because they just think it's still bad, but they haven't actually given it a chance. Chalet is a really good map, and Skyscraper I think will be too. But with that all said, let's get into the changes that they made to Skyscraper. And just so you guys know, I'm not going to go over the super small changes like, oh, this vase was moved from this corner to this table, nothing like that. I'm just going to go over the bigger picture things, doorways, windows, walls, stuff like that. I'm going to try to take this section by section, but first we're going to start with the west side balcony, which has been completely removed. Now it is just a wall to rappel on. People can still run out from Blackstairs window, but then they're basically stuck outside. But you don't have to worry about the kitchen runouts or the geisha runouts anymore. Speaking of geisha, it's been slightly tweaked to have more room and allow for more window play from the boxes. It also now has a wall that goes into drum room, which it didn't have before. Blackstairs won't be as easy to play as a defender anymore. Previously you could prone on the stairs and you could see clearly onto the balcony, and now that door has been moved over to block this. Karaoke got a small change. It has this like hard wall in the middle of the room now so that defenders can actually hide in there and don't have to worry about being killed from geisha. Meanwhile, tea room is almost exactly the same. The only two differences is that the window that it used to have is now a doorway into a separate hallway. And gold / indestructible / whatever people called that little back section now has a wall leading into that same hallway. And speaking of this new hallway, it connects to drum and has a pit into the restaurant / bar area. This pit is kind of a disaster for sound, so maybe stay away from it unless you really know how to play the sound. Right next to the hallway we now have Dragon, which used to be outdoors but is now indoors, and it connects the two sides of the map a little bit easier. Now people don't have to only go through drum and bamboo, now they have Dragon as an option as well. Exhibition and office got slightly new layouts with tweaks to prevent easy line of sights. The big changes are removing the office windows. Before, both of these windows used to be the easiest crossfire for any attacking team. Now that they're gone, it's a little bit harder to actually completely pincer the defenders on sight, which is good. That about does it for the top floor. We're going to move now down to the first floor, where bedroom and bathroom got the same treatment as office and exhibition. It overall has a slight layout change, and windows have been removed to prevent more crossfires. Bedroom also got a small closet that leads to the doorway, so it's kind of a new entranceway. Moving on, what used to be where the elevators were is now called reception, and it connects to the service entrance, so it makes for easier rotations and you're not force-fed through one hallway like before. Restaurant also got split in half, and now it's where there's a bar / restaurant area. There's like a little half wall to differentiate it. And now kitchen lost its outside facing wall, where a lot of people would use to spawn peek or run out. It's no longer there. But it still keeps the window that was also famous for its runouts. Now it just only looks at service entrance / vent area. It also got a layout change to make it a bit easier to play against the hatch as well as the service hallway. The barbecue area also lost its balcony window, but it did get a small layout change similar to kitchen. Just helps play against the doorways a bit easier. One notable change that I do want to talk about though is the railings on the stairs. Previously on main stairs, if you were to try to shoot anyone through that, it was very likely half your shots would get eaten because it has this really weird, like, I don't even know how to describe it, square-ish railing. It's not normal railings where they're straight bars, it's just a weird pattern. And it still has that, but now it's destructible. This is a really good change because that was by far the worst part of playing Skyscraper. But the biggest, absolutely massive change that happened to Skyscraper is that the tower in the northeast corner can no longer be accessed. You can no longer get to the second floor. A big map nerf overall, but I think we'll make it through this. Now that covers all the changes for Skyscraper. I feel that this map really has potential to be a fairly competitive map. I don't know if it'll be like Pro League level, but I think it can be ranked level for sure. Now that we've covered everything in Neon Dawn, I just want to remind you guys that this video is sponsored by Ubisoft to let you guys know about the Neon Dawn Battle Pass. If you want more information on it, just click the link in the description below. There's a lot of stuff to unlock, guys, and I seriously don't want you to miss out. But that sums it up for this video. This is everything that you need to know for Operation Neon Dawn. I hope you guys are excited as I am for the new season, and I'll see you guys out there. Take care.